Okay, so this is another in the series of videos to help you with your 20 mark questions in geography. This is one from the coast topic, and we're going to talk through it and show you how the examiner would mark it, and hopefully highlight why this is a really good answer. So here it is. To what extent is one area you have studied adapting successfully to the challenge of rising sea levels? So, I'd really encourage you, before you start in your answers, to kind of highlight exactly what you need to be writing about. So to what extent? So I'm going to try and write a phrase that has the word extent in it in the conclusion to actually properly answer that when I come to it. One area I've studied, and it's rising sea levels. So I know that I've studied Kiribati in the Pacific Ocean, a small island nation. So I'm going to write about that. And it's to what extent are they successful? So I'm going to need some points to say, yes, they are successful, and some points to say, no, they aren't successful. So I'd encourage you before you start, to get some kind of positives and some negatives just in note form, ready to write about. And you can even, if you're really organised, you really know the answer, you can even kind of say what you're going to go for the conclusion. Are you going to go for, so they are successful, or are you going to go against? So yeah, I would decide that even before I start writing. Let's think about structure. So first in geography, here's a really clear short intro. So we have a short introduction to 20 markers trying to define those key terms. Then we have 2 significant paragraphs. This is like a for and against argument, so 2 paragraphs. And then a conclusion, which has got to be detailed to reach level 4 in the mark scheme. So here's the marking codes we're going to use. Remember, CO means conclusion. So if it's detailed, it's level 4. If it's clear, it's level 3. If there's some conclusion, it's level 2. If it's very limited, it's level 1. So we'll give that a level at the end. Then there's evaluation throughout. So are they weighing up the question as they go through? Then there's understanding of key concepts and processes. So do they understand the challenge of rising sea levels? Do they understand what adapting means? TS, this is temporal or spatial scale. So that means, have they acknowledged any change over time or any differences over space in this between locations? CS, so that's obviously case study. Can they get some specific facts in there? So I'm going to try and look at Kiribati. Are there any specific facts on Kiribati? And then the last one is synopticity, which means can they link to any other areas of geography that aren't specifically in this question here. Okay, right, so let's read through it and mark it with these codes. So climate change adaptation means communities changing something about the way they live in order to increase their resilience to and reduce the impacts from climate change. So they've defined adaptation, so that's concepts and processes. I've studied Kiribati, the Pacific Ocean nation, where the islands have adopted a number of adaptations in order to reduce the impact of climate change. So there's some case study. I wouldn't say it's level 4 detail yet, anything like that, but they've introduced it. Firstly, arguably, Kiribati is making some successful adaptations which are reducing the impact of climate change now and will do in the future. So it said they're successful, so it's evaluating, and there's a little bit of now in the future there, so it's temporal scale. Firstly, they are constructing seawalls out of sandbags, bit of case study, in more vulnerable locations near crop plantations. This is preventing saltwater inundation in the majority of cases, and in some locations, around the 33 coral atolls, more case study. In addition, they are planting mangrove trees around certain parts of the coast, which are acting to aid deposition of sediment and further erosion, causing further coastal accretion. So, this is a great case study with these mangrove trees, and they've explained some really good geography theory here. So that's a bit of CP, concepts and processes, talking about deposition and accretion. This is a low-budget solution for an island which has a lower GDP than Laos, more case study, and therefore wouldn't appear to have high levels of resilience. So linking to concepts and processes. And also that resilience isn't actually in this question, so I think that's quite good synopticity. They are also implementing a Migration with Dignity programme, which involves buying land in Fiji, Australia and New Zealand, and are sending some of the 103,000 population with skills training ready to migrate in the future if the islands become uninhabitable. So that's a great case study there, obviously, and a bit of temporal scale, thinking about the future. Some, however, may see this as more giving up and moving on rather than increasing resilience levels. Okay, so, I mean, this is just great evaluation, so I've really weighed up, is this successful? And the question is not really resilient, so I might change increasing resilience to rather than successfully adapting, perhaps, because that's what the question's truly about. Right, I'm moving on to the next paragraph. On the other hand, it could be argued that adaptations are failing. So a nice little bit of evaluation there. The latest estimate is that whatever strategies are put in place, the islands will be submerged in the next 50 years, as there is predicted to be up to 1.2 metres of sea level rise. So great case study facts here. Some islands have had 200 metres of land already inundated, that means flooded, even at low tide. In addition to this argument, people have migrated further inland on the atolls or to the capital island of Tarawa. Great case study, I know this in such detail. But this has the disadvantage of people suffering as they have a deep sense of place and topophilia for their home areas of land. Wow. So obviously this isn't a changing places essay, but they slip those concepts in there, highly relevant. So that's brilliant, topophilia, sense of place. A further impact of this internal migration is the waste disposal issues that have resulted on Tarawa. So waste disposal, again, that's not necessarily in this question, but it's really relevant. So that's great synopticity there. Brilliant synopticity. With no landfall opportunities on the islands. It should also be added that despite the use of seawalls and mangroves, there are many instances of crops being inundated by saltwater, which ruins vegetation and reduces food supply. Though to counteract this, the nation has bought land in Fiji to grow crops like taro to increase its food security. So case study for taro, food security is more synoptic, linking to different areas of geography. And this whole kind of section is a nice little evaluation. They're weighing up. Have they or have they not? Right, let's get on to the conclusion. In conclusion, I would argue that adaptation attempts have been successful to a small extent. So if they use that word extent, they're properly concluding, as they're ultimately failing, but people should pursue them anyway to maintain the land they feel so attached to for as long as possible. Okay, so they've a really clear view. They aren't that successful, but people should carry on anyway. It is surely in the hand of HIC governments, who have played a more major role in causing climate change in the first place, to aid the nation in its adaptation or to take climate change mitigation more seriously. So nice synoptic link to the issue of climate change, solving climate change, dealing with it. In the future, a bit of temporal scale there, as the sea level rises, adapting will become increasingly difficult and less successful. Wow, so they've kind of done their, what will the conclusion be in the future, due to the increase in frequency of flood events and tropical storms. Wow, so brilliant synopticity, linking to tropical hazards in the future. So we give each of these a level, right? Synopticity first of all, massive links to different areas of geography there, brilliant. Level 4, that means detailed. Is the case study detailed to reach level 4, or is it just clear? I'd say it's detailed, you know, they've got lots of facts in there, so probably level 4. Temporal/spatial scale. There's not loads of change about space, but it is only asking you about one area. But there is a lot of kind of differences over time mentioned in there. You know, the kind of how it will change in the future, and the kind of migration with dignity going into the future and things like that. So I'd say it's level 3, perhaps level 4, 4/3. Concepts and processes. Clearly they understand adaptation, which is the theme of the question, but they also understand mitigation, resilience as well, a range of other processes. So I say that's level 4. Have they really evaluated? Yeah, I'd say they've really targeted that question and gone back to it at the end of their paragraphs, really stuck to it and weighed up throughout. And then conclusion is detail. They look into the future, so that's level 4. So overall, the examiner says, well, that's level 4, and it's really high for level 4 because it's all level 4 aspects. So it's probably a 19 or 20 out of 20, that one. Let's go 19.